You are about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
Welcome back to the Dr. Dahlia Show. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. So the Olympics has ended. The Winter Olympics has ended, and that was pretty remarkable. I caught most. I tried to watch as much as possible. The problem is every night when I would go on the it was on the ESPN stations, there was this Cortina Milan mix, and it always kept showing curling. So I had to, DVR and save, and so I was able to see most of the other events, like half pike and skiing, and slalom, and bobsled and all that. And of course, I caught the men's hockey. I caught the women's hockey too. Way to go, Team USA. I mean, the women rock. Those women are hockey players. Damn. But, the men, they had to struggle a little bit, against Canada. And I knew we were going to win. I put a bet on USA men, so I was pretty happy about that. But I got to tell you, I mean, what a class act the USA hockey team was. So, as you know, one of the members that probably would have been on the team for USA Today was Johnny Gaudreau. And Johnny Gaudreau and his brother were killed by, I believe, a drunk driver while they were cycling back in August 29th, 2024. I'm trying to find some more information on that. And apparently what the teammates have done is they've had his jersey in the locker room. They always honored him. And then when they won gold, they included his jersey as well as his kids in the group picture. Really, really cool. These guys are also, a couple of them are my neighbors. And so it's really kind of cool to, I'm like, your house is fine. I just checked on everything. It's good. No, but it's really, really cool to see them out there and see how well it was difficult. Right, to root against Shea Theodore and Mark Stone. I mean, that was kind of hard because, they're Golden Knights. And so, a lot of us were probably watching this going, well, wait a second here. They play for American teams. But you see, I like that. I like how if Canada, bore you, and Canada raised you and groomed you, you represent Canada. If USA groomed you and raised you and nurtured you and helped you reach your athletic pinnacle, then you represent America. So I get that, and so it makes sense. I know a lot of people are like, but come on, man, they play for the Golden Knights. But you listen, you pay homage to the country that helped get you to that point where you become an Olympian. The Canadians really look disappointed. And again, winning silver is huge. And they've won multiple years before. And I understand they worked hard, and it was a Jack Hughes's final goal in overtime. I get that it was not easy. And so I was telling them, guys, silver is awesome. You guys still rock. You're Olympians. But you could see the disappointment, and they looked pretty quiet. And then also, the toy, they got that little toy thing. I forget what those little toys are. But, you can see them like, thank you for the toy. It's good. But, I have to admit, the medals looked a little cheap. I've been watching this. The medals, and I know they're not going to be real gold. I know they're not going to be real silver, real bronze. You couldn't afford that. But I was kind of a little bit perplexed looking at that. And, in terms of the medal count, Norway, they just brought it home. Norway, 41 total medals, 18 gold. But again, this is what they do. It was interesting. NBC did a segment on the Norway, where the reason why they produce so many Winter Olympic championships, like Klæbo and all of the other ones, is because these kids, they play outside. These kids are out there. These kids are snowing, and and the parents are okay with these kids doing ski jumps, and and then the ones who apparently by teenager look like they have skill, the country will help groom them to become athletes if they want to be Olympic athletes. And then the ones that don't want to, they go on and do other things, and they're pretty well fit. So I thought that was a pretty good segment that NBC did. But USA ended up having 12 golds, 12 silver, 9 bronze, 33 total. In fact, a couple bobsledders from UNLV. Really proud of those ladies. And so we had really a lot of America represented in these Olympics, and so it was nice. The closing ceremony. I thought was good. I mean, I love the opening ceremony. The first part of the opening ceremony where there was that dance with the girl from White Lotus. It was nice, but not my favorite. I really loved hearing Andrea Bocelli sing. That was fantastic. And I thought the opening ceremony was exquisite. I thought the closing ceremony was also exquisite, very well done. So Italy definitely get props for holding an amazing Milan Cortina Winter Olympics. The next one is going to be in Paris or in France, the French Alps, and then the next Winter Olympics is going to be in Salt Lake City, USA. So that's going to be really, really cool. Of course, the Summer Olympics are going to be in LA in 2 years. So we're really excited about that. But watching the Olympics, there were a lot of injuries. I mean, when you saw people crashing on the platform during the half pipe, when you saw the speed skater get apparently during a fall of a speed skating race, somebody's skate knocked off her goggles, her protective shields. I think cracked her zygomatic arch and almost took out her eye. You saw Lindsey Vohn's injury, where she's now had multiple surgeries on her leg of shattering her. I think it's her right tibia. I have to double check our left, and then the bobsledders. I mean, there were a lot of injuries, and then I think one of the skiers had to be life flighted out. I mean, these people, they definitely put their life on the line to a medal and to perform for us. So shout out to all the Olympians and the Special Olympics. I'm looking forward to that. Or the Paralympics. They call it the Paralympics. Really, really excited to see that. And God bless these individuals who are busting their asses to represent their country. I mean, really, really cool. Funny though, NBC was interviewing the hockey players while they were partying, and they were kind of drunk at the time. I'm like, Mike Tirico should probably kind of, shift gears because they're drunk. But they had a good time and they were good, and they got to get their teeth fixed. But love them. Congratulations, Team USA. 1877 Doc Dolly.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So, over the weekend, the Mexican army killed the leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, Nemesio Ruben Osquera Cervantes, known as El Mencho. This, according to AP News, effectively decapitated what was Mexico's most powerful cartel. Now, seeing the Mexican army take action was a little bit of a surprise, as especially since we've been asking Mexico to help as fentanyl has been coming across the border. And we believe that the Jalisco New Generation Cartel was one of the ringleaders with that. And so, unfortunately, it has caused just waves of damage. And an American couple on their first trip away from their 4-year-old son have now been trapped in Mexico. Apparently, they were on vacation in Puerto Vallarta when the leader was killed by the Mexican military on Sunday. Now there's widespread violence across the region. And according to the couple, the concerned father told Fox Digital, I had to call my mom today and, just tell her, look, here's where my will is. We just created this. I don't want you to panic, but I may need you to stay a couple days extra with my son. So this American family, we don't know their names, in Puerto Vallarta. Puerto Vallarta, it's interesting. It's beautiful, beautiful city. There's all-inclusive resorts. I'm a huge fan of Puerto Vallarta, but when I was there last, and that was a few years back, it was very the air was eerie. There was this sense that the tourists are going to be okay because, we're supposed to be hands off the tourists, but somebody else is in control of the city. And from what we picked up from some of the locals, the cartel is very much in control. However, the police and the military have a special arrangement so that the tourists keep coming, keep spending money, keep, feeling safe. But, we kind of went, we didn't go off the beaten path, but we went to some of the tourist areas in Puerto Vallarta, and you just got a sense of this isn't the safest place in the world, and that it was very unsteady, unstable. And I love the people of Puerto Vallarta. I think the resorts are beautiful. The area is beautiful, but when people tell me, well, they're going to go to Mexico, they're going to, I went to Cancun for my honeymoon, but apparently, once the poop hits the fan, these areas, if they are in control by the cartel, you don't have the safety you have as if you're going to an American city, and it's just something to think about. And so there's travel warnings. Authorities in Jalisco, Michoacan, and Guanajuato reported at least 14 people were killed on Sunday, including 7 National Guard troops. You see tourists, surrounded by smoke in the distance and things like that. And so the U.S. State Department has issued a shelter-in-place order due to ongoing security operations and related road blockages and criminal activity that encompasses vacation hotspots in Puerto Vallarta, Cancun, Playa del Carmen, and Tulum. So the tourists that are, according to Daily Mail, tourists trapped at the resorts in those cities have warned that the hotels are down to the last bit of food. One guest claiming they are surviving off of granola bars. Guests reported that hotel kitchens and nearby restaurants are shut down. So many are worried they're not going to eat in the coming days. These all-you-can-eat inclusive resort vacation packages in Mexico are a lot cheaper than going to Hawaii or going to Boston or going to New York. This is why we went. It was cheaper. The flight was cheaper. The hotel was cheaper. The all-inclusive package, it was cheaper to have a family vacation in Puerto Vallarta than it was to, enjoy another spot in America. And so people go and these all you can eat. It's great when you have kids because they're like, I'm hungry, I'm going to go to the buffet. So they go to the buffet, they can eat, you tip at the end. It's nice. It's very convenient. And for two boys who were eating, me out of house and home, it was great to have that sort of, okay, you go eat and leave them alone. But unfortunately, they can run out of food. Some vacationers who had early Sunday morning flights were able to get home, but now others are locked down at the airport. Most domestic and international flights have been canceled in both Guadalajara and Puerto Vallarta. I believe in Cancun, you could still fly out. Of course, there's a lot of issues with the northern storm and the blizzard that's affecting flight traffic. So, that could obviously be an issue with the winter storm. But cartel boss Nemesio Ruben Osquiera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, was killed during a shootout in his home state of Jalisco. The Mexican military wanted to capture him, but they ended up killing him. Osquiera Cervantes was the leader of one of the fastest growing criminal networks in Mexico, notorious for trafficking fentanyl, methamphetamine, and cocaine to the United States, and then would attack government officials who would challenge them. And so after he died, gunmen apparently unleashed violence across the country. Cars were burned. Cartel members blocked roads in 20 Mexican states. You saw smoke. And so people locked themselves in their homes in Guadalajara, which is Mexico's second largest city and Jalisco's capital. School canceled on Monday in several states as security forces are now placed all over the country. So American tourists are now feeling trapped, and they are describing war breaking out in the streets. They say one vacationer, according to Daily Mail, was forced to evacuate from his rented Airbnb in Puerto Vallarta, told Fox Digital how he woke up to the sound of blaring car horns and saw 6 vehicles completely engulfed in flames. So it's a dangerous time. It's a dangerous area, and it stinks because it's beautiful. And the people there are beautiful, but, when cartel runs things, just like Gaza, you have beautiful land. You have a beautiful area on the beach but Hamas and when terrorists run things, it's horrible. It's not, and it's unsafe. And so cartel members were dousing cars with fuel. Then they were taking the gas and pouring the gas on the vehicle and waited until everybody cleared before they set it on fire. So, the cartel, seems to show some concern for, but it's interesting. They're all pieces of crap. They're all but the cartel, interestingly, works differently than Hamas and terrorist groups, right? The cartel, their main goal is running a business. They're violent, and there's wars, and they're all that, but they're about running the business, whereas terrorists and, Hamas, it's all about terror and control. And so it's frightening because, when you have, it's not as organized. The cartel isn't as organized as you would see, a Wall Street hedge fund. I mean, they don't have the sort of infrastructure and control, and a lot of the recruitment of individuals within the cartel are non-volunteer, and so they feel threatened or they could be in trouble, and so they have to be a part of it. And so, unfortunately, you could have people go rogue. You have very, sick-minded individuals who are a part of these gangs and a part of these cartels. And so, even though in Puerto Vallarta there appeared to be that sense of, okay, they're not going to mess with the tourists, you're going to be fine. That's why you could go. I mean, it's obvious. It was so obvious when I was there that this is not run by a very stable sort of situation. It's not government and city council and all that there's other factors, and probably those other factors are the ones that are running things, and that at a moment's notice, everything could crumble. And so that's what's happening now. Now, will it be a domino effect? Will it be a snowball effect? Right now you have, America has to get tourists out. However, America, has relationships with the Mexican government. They don't necessarily have relationships with cartel. And so you would think Mexico, being such a big, vast, beautiful country, would have the military infrastructure to handle the cartel. They don't. And so is that because cartel infiltrated the military? Is it because the military is so afraid of cartel? I mean, what's going on? I mean, in America, you saw the ICE agents. They're like, look, we're going to get cartel out of here, and they're going to protect their identities. Of course, people and protesters wanted them to not protect their identities so they could be targeted later, which was frightening to think that. But for those of you considering a trip down there, I would really rethink that. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
We're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Well, you have to search for it. I'm not seeing this story on regular Google or regular search engines, but apparently a man breached President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago property yesterday. And law enforcement officials, luckily, were able to stop him. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office identified the man as Austin Tucker Martin, 21 years old, from North Carolina. He was reported missing within the last few days, according to Reuters. Martin was allegedly seen near the property's north gate, Trump's Mar-a-Lago property, at about 1:30 a.m., was stopped by a Palm Beach County Sheriff's deputy and 2 Secret Service agents. Now, the president was in Washington. He was with Angel Families today, honoring them, and today being Angel Family Day for those families who lost somebody at the hands of an illegal criminal immigrant. And so he was in Washington for that, and then he's getting ready for the State of the Union tomorrow. But unfortunately, this man decides to breach the gate. Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw said that Martin was carrying a shotgun and a fuel can. Officials ordered him to drop the items. He put the gas can down, but then he raised his shotgun to a shooting position. So authorities fired their weapons in response. So according to USA Today, the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office confirmed Martin was killed on February 22nd. They described him as a white male in his early 20s. And we don't think he had a criminal record prior to this. And so the sheriff said he couldn't confirm how many shots were fired. Case is still under active investigation. FBI is taking the lead. No law enforcement officials or anybody on the Mar-a-Lago property was injured. However, Martin was pronounced dead on the scene. So now people who live in the area are looking at security footage to see if there's any other clues. Was there anybody else involved? And so again, it's frightening. This is something that it worried my kids when I had been asked to run for office multiple times. And I talked to the family about it. The kids are like, no, because someone's going to shoot you. You could get shot. And they were really, really afraid of that. And not because I'm so unlikable. Maybe that's it too. It's just that's how a lot of, maybe because of, Ronald Reagan and JFK and all that, and Gabby Gifford and what happened with Trump. My family is not excited about me running for office, and I'm not excited about that either. And so I'm honored that people have asked, but no. At this time, and it's not because I think I'm going to be shot at. I mean, at this point, you could be shot at no matter where you are. But it's just I would want to, if I ran for office, be all about common sense. And I think what would happen is the Democratic Party or the Republican Party would, not like that. I'm just, not necessarily saying I'm Republican or Democrat. That I'm saying, look, secure border. With strength can be peace. Strong economy. Allow parents to homeschool. Allow there to be parent choice. And parent education as it pertains to what's going on with their children, and so maybe I'm more libertarian than anything else, but I just don't think establishment, politics would welcome, somebody like me. I mean, look what they did to Trump. The Republicans did not like Trump. Boy, did they try stopping him. And then finally they're like, oh, okay, well, you know what? I guess he could win. So, but one thing about President Donald Trump is, his life is always in jeopardy. They keep going after him. All presidents, sadly, sustain this. But, he survived an assassination attempt. And then there was another one following at his Lago estate. And then now this, it's not easy. And then, after he leaves, and then his family. His family's always then also under threat. And what, though, is very frustrating is we're trying to prevent the next mass shooter. We're trying to prevent the next political assassin. We want to find the person before they could do it. And as you're seeing, like Thomas Crooks, the one that did the Butler, Pennsylvania shooting, like Adam Lanza, who did the Sandy Hook Elementary shooting. You're finding these are very young individuals that don't have a rap sheet. They haven't had time to come up with a rap sheet, or they're isolating so much at home that they're not getting noticed, that they're not doing, this, because we keep trying to profile and figure out who is going to be the next assassin, the next mass shooter or the next shooter. Let's look at, the usual suspects sort of thing. But you're finding these individuals are hidden. And then when they do decide to poke their head out, it's bad. And so it's almost on the parents to go, will you please go into your basement and, clue us in if your kid is planning something? But see, parents give their children privacy. I got 2 adult sons. One who's hopefully going to be married, moving out. The other one, we said he could stay, as long as he's going to school. It's interesting because a lot of the kids in Gen Z, they move out and then they can't afford it and they move back home because it's too expensive. Or they, realize, what, it's easier it's more financially lucrative. And I told the kids, I go, guys, if you want to get an apartment or whatever, that's fine, but you pay for it yourself. I'm paying a mortgage. I don't have money to also pay for rent. Get a job like I did. I worked 3 part-time jobs while in college. I waited tables in medical school, so I was able to support myself. If you want to do that, you could do that, but if you don't, as long as you're in school and following the rules, you have a place to stay. And so, but, I give, my boys their privacy, although, they're pretty much, they don't really wall up. They don't, hide in a basement playing video games. We don't have a basement. But there's a lot of parents where they don't know anything about their kid. Their kid's like a roommate in a part of the house. They never talk. And the kid, meanwhile, could be planning, like that one that did the Minnesota Catholic Church shooting. And bragging about, all his weaponry and but I don't think he was at his parents' home at the time. I think he had an apartment. But we feel like we have to kind of give everybody their space. When I grew up, people had diaries. I never wanted a diary. I remember my mom got me one. I was like, no, because you read my sister's diary. And then she gets in trouble and she gets beat. So no, I'm not going to at all put my thoughts down for you to know. I'm going to keep them to myself. And as soon as I can move out when I'm 18, I will. That's kind of how and that's what I did. You know, and I remember there was a time in the early 2000s, never read your child's diary. Your child needs private time. They need private thoughts. And at the time, I agreed with that because I was like, I had parents that wouldn't let me. I mean, they would use it against me. So there's no way I was going to tell them, that I dislike them or whatever. Wasn't going to go there. However, now that we are brewing a subpopulation of individuals who want to cause mayhem, want to kill the next president, we have to look at, what they're thinking, what they're doing. Because we can't look at their rap sheet. See, in the olden days, kids had to play outside. There was nothing to keep them indoors. All right, so they went outside, and if they caused trouble and they caused trouble again, you could fight it. You don't know. These people never leave the house. There are parents who are bringing their kid food and then taking the plate away, and these adult children are like, thanks, Mom. And that's the only communication what's that kid doing? And I'm not saying everybody in the basement playing video games or in their room playing video games is going to be the next killer. But people are going, okay, well, who is this person? Well, it's a 21-year-old. Who was Thomas Brooks? I mean, these are young individuals who decide that when they are going to see sunlight, they're going to cause chaos. We got to do a better job of figuring out, who's the next one. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
Welcome back to the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So the question on a lot of parents' minds is my child going to have autism? And how can I prevent my child from getting autism? Well, the answer to parents all this time has been, it's in the genes. So if you have the gene or it's in the family, there's going to be a higher chance. Because autism is genetic. We've seen it multiple times. I see it in my extended family. Autism, sadly, can be genetic. Although these kids are some of the most brilliant, amazing kids. High functioning or Asperger's actually can help these kids. You actually see gifts that these kids have, and they have whether it's an academic ability or a keen sense of insight or and so look at I believe Einstein had been postulated as having having Asperger's. Dan Aykroyd, there's brilliant people that have it that, for some it might be a gift. However, to have a child with severe autism, it could be extremely, extremely challenging for that child to be able to, get through a childhood and get into society and have a job and support themselves. And so, parents are worried. And it's very frightening to parents when the number keeps going up in incidence, where now we're at 1 in 31 babies can have autism, 1 in 20 boys. Now, as a physician, I have been watching the numbers change and the incidents go up, and I've been seeing patients and helping parents identify if their child. Luckily for us doctors, we can identify early on if we see a child not engaging with mom. Yeah, while mom's holding him, the child's like, I don't want to be with mom. Because usually a typical child response is, the doctor, oh no, the doctor, Then they're like, I go, and then like that. But then they hide in mommy. They hide with mommy, and they're like, don't make me go to the doctor. Don't make me just stay with mommy. Whereas sometimes these kids with autism, they don't care about the doctor in the room. They don't care about mom. They might be fidgety. They're not engaging. You call them by their name. They don't respond or connect. And so, one of the reasons why, thank God, we have newborn hearing screening is because many parents thought that their child couldn't hear. And that's why they weren't paying attention. It's because they couldn't hear. And so and there are babies born and infants born with deafness and some hearing loss. So now we're screening kids for hearing. But still the number of autism rates are skyrocketing. 1 in 20 boys, which means every single classroom in America has somebody with autism, maybe 2. So it's going up. And so when parents keep going, okay, I get it. I get it. It's genetic, but then why are there so many more kids? We're having fewer kids these days. So the idea of, well, if you have more kids, you're then increasing the population with the gene, but they're like, and so parents are having a tough time with, there's got to be something else. So RFK Jr. and President Trump wants to find the root of it. And, so where their thinking is, well, what are we doing different with kids this decade? And then the previous decade and the previous decade from other decades? Why is autism on the rise? And so parents and doctors and politicians go back and forth going, well, we're better at diagnosing it now. So because we're diagnosing it now early on, we're then having higher numbers. Okay, that's a very valid argument. However, a child with extreme autism wouldn't have been misdiagnosed in the 1950s or the 1960s or the 1970s. I mean, they would have been found out. A child who was suffering from hearing loss, I mean, if that was misdiagnosed, that would have gotten rectified pretty easily when the kid could prove they could hear. So one issue is our ability to diagnose, and I get it, with the Asperger and the spectrum, we're going to call it earlier than maybe they used to with severe autism. But I think that it still would have been picked up. Somebody would have recognized it. So yeah, the numbers have gone up and we've diagnosed it better. But we also need to look at the theory is, what are we doing to kids? What exposures are they getting that could possibly affect them? And then, is it true autism or is it an autism-like illness? Are they getting some sort of neurodegenerative disorder that we're just lumping into autism, that it's not autism? I mean, I remember going to medical school, I'm this old, where they had hepatitis A, hepatitis B, and then non-A, non-B hepatitis. So I'm an undergrad, and they're like, yeah, so it's a non-A, non-B hepatitis. And then eventually they called it hepatitis C. So right now we're calling some of these cases, are they, non-genetic autism? Are they not? Well, then maybe they're not technically autism or Asperger's or that spectrum. Maybe it's another condition that we just haven't come up with the name. And that's why the numbers are so large, why we have 1 in 20. So vaccines have come up. I don't think vaccines cause autism. I really am of the belief that true autism is genetic. However, are some individuals not tolerating the exposure and then getting a neurodegenerative sort of picture? Well, some doctors and scientists are trying to look at what are these kids getting exposed to, either pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, fetal age after, that could possibly alter things. And interestingly, there's starting to be more of a theory that it could be a combination of genetic predisposition and an environmental exposure. Obstetrician Janine Connery, and this is being reported by the Washington Post, has paid attention to the 1,300-day window, the 1,300-day window. It's months before conception through a child's second birthday. Now, studies are showing how nutrition and lifestyle during this period could shape pregnancy outcomes and the long-term health of babies. So she began to wonder, what about influence autism? So now she wants to alert women to their exposure to toxins, stress, infections during this narrow and consequential window. She thinks it may subtly, as certain exposure with a chemical or pollution or radiation, whatever, could shape eggs or sperm, influencing the child's development long before the child's even conceived. So Dr. Connery said the more we research, the more we see links between different chemical exposures and autism. So if we reduce those links, we will ideally reduce cases. So, one peer review paper in the autism research community published in December is showing that more than half of autism cases could be prevented with the right interventions. It proposes a 3-hit theory suggesting that genetic susceptibility combined with environmental exposure and prolonged period of physiological stress contribute to autism. Remember I told you, I'm not saying this is a cause, but a lot of women who had autistic children in my practice had fibroids. And I had wondered if the stress of the fibroid was causing a child to have autism-like. Now, somebody could say, but yeah, Dr. Dahlia, but older women get fibroids, so it could be older maternal age. It could be. But it was interesting that almost every single mom who had an autistic child, I had diagnosed when we did pelvic ultrasound fibroids on. I'm not saying fibroids are causing it, but you see environmental stressors. So we're not just talking about, okay, is it vaccines? Is it medications? Is it, what is baby being exposed to constantly? And is that then affecting their neurodevelopment and psychosocial development and putting them at risk for a neurodegenerative issue? And so 2 recent studies found that parents with the highest levels of unusual sensitivity to everyday substances, even at low levels, measured by self-reported symptom patterns and validated questionnaires, were 2 times to 5.7 times more likely to report having a child with autism, prompting researchers to urge couples trying to conceive to minimize environmental exposures in their homes. So what does that mean? Do we need, plants that get rid of toxins? Do we need... No, we need to study this more, because I do believe that it could be a combination of an environmental toxin or trigger, as well as somebody's genetic propensity and predisposition. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by financial fitness show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.